Hey, well, Daniel, welcome to Strikeforce head office.
Thanks.
HQ, as we like to call it. Appreciate you guys coming out for the day. Visit us as we've been partners for 7 years now, I think it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
Lots of change.
There has been. We've been in existence for over 25 years here in Australia, and it's actually been a privilege to work with Strikeforce as a partner, helping us deliver our solutions into the marketplace, and also adding value-added services to joint customers that we've got in the marketplace here in Australia and New Zealand.
And I think it's safe to say that Blue Yonder is the leader in the category management space in Australia, and obviously a lot of the big name retailers use the Blue Yonder category management solutions. So from our perspective as an end-to-end supplier of retail solutions, from merchandising right through to space planning and category and insights and vendor replenishment services, etc., being able to partner with you guys is absolutely a feather in our cap, and something we work really hard to make sure we look after that relationship and get the best out of it for both of us, because it's definitely a win-win situation.
No, most definitely. And we as a technology vendor can't survive with our partners, and most importantly customers as well. So you are our ears, the eyes on the ground, and do help actually add value to the capabilities. And it's also a feedback loop back into our organisation to help continuously improve our capabilities as we're continuing to develop and invest in our solutions and capabilities. And this domain of merchandising and ranging is actually quite an interesting area. It's forever evolving.
Doesn't stop changing.
Stop changing, but at the same time, it is based on a foundation of principles that I haven't seen change too significantly over the decades and the years. However, extensibility and adding to those capabilities are becoming a more of an important role within today's society, particularly with the onset of new digital technologies, in-store operations that are enabling workforce changes and operational efficiencies within the store. There's a lot more consideration around the offline versus online channels of being able to service consumers today. And that whole interoperability and interaction with the consumers and the stores is becoming a lot more complex, I would say. So we're certainly relying on technology, but at the same time, it's still a people business. Retailers today are still relying on consumers to come to stores, to interact with their products, with their services, and that whole experience of in-stores is actually quite important. And that's where I think Strikeforce certainly adds value in terms of being able to provide that guidance to our customers, and to help our customers with a different perspective and a point of view with how to engage with consumers coming into the store, but also interacting with those online consumers that do have a touch point, whether that's through a click and collect or a pick up and drop off, and being able to optimize those operations to connect with that consumer at the end of the day. And I think that's the ultimate goal across all organizations, is to ensure that consumers are engaged with not only our product, but we're also helping that journey, that customer shopping journey, to become a little bit more efficient. And in today's day and age, I'll call it a lot more agile as well.
Agile, yeah, that's a good word to use, agile, So obviously you touched on a little bit there, there's been some change in the industry, but then the essentials tend to stay the same, where retailers are trying to sell more stuff and make more money and all those sorts of things. So in terms of, from a Blue Yonder perspective, what are some of the big changes that you might have seen in the last little while?
Yeah, certainly consumer insights and shopping behaviours. So we're seeing a shift to a large part of the retail organisation today wanting to try and engage with consumers in a digital manner, and that could be through loyalty programs, awards, and that's providing retailers and organisations with a lot more insights into how their customers are shopping and how they also want to engage. On top of that, we are also seeing not so much a significant impact, but a question around how do we optimize our returns on the floor space within the four walls of the stores that exist today with a lot of retailers. So a lot of questions about how do you right size a shelf? How do we right size a shelf not only to support a return on investment or assets that you may be leasing or your own, but more importantly, it's also supporting that return on assets with respect to the customer shopping journey, because some of our retailers are actually embarking on in-store picking, scheduling, which has an impact on its own workforce, and that the way that those stores actually have to be set up and behave to support multiple different types of operations. So now you're getting a lot more complexities that's being impacted on the store itself and the store operations, that are having to not only think about the consumer, but also your own associates and the way that they're interacting with products, services, and more importantly, customer service. And so we're seeing a lot of changes in those stores, and they're sort of the significant elements that we're seeing in terms of change in the way that stores are operating today, data insights and consumers and consumer data. And then the onset, I'd like to just sort of finish off on that, is being, once you've got all this data, A lot of our retailers and customers are actually asking about how do we use that data. So we're starting now seeing the onset of artificial intelligence and machine learning to be able to digest, interpret that information, provide analytics, and automate a lot of the decision-making processes as well.
It's an exciting time. So I guess from a partner's point of view, we're lucky enough that we get to see, I guess, parts of the roadmap and understand what the journey looks like, probably ahead of the market. In the terms of the Australian market in particular, do you think that there's an opportunity for significant change in this market compared to what's happening elsewhere in the world, or are we about in line with the rest of the market? How do you see it, or the rest of the world? How do you see it?
I've got the privilege working for a global organisation. I'd like to summarise that we are seeing different types of uptake of technologies and adoption of technologies across the globe. And I'd like to separate into sort of three main areas. Obviously, we work in a region here, Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific in itself has its own dynamics.
Special,
When you're looking at, as an example, advanced organisations or countries like Japan or China, with the onset of Alibaba and adopting new technologies there and checkout technologies. So there's a lot to learn from that growing and new technology sort of adverse country, to the extent of Europe, which has its own sort of uniqueness around geographical densities and socioeconomic densities versus North America, who's largely come off a back of large big box stores and servicing those types of operations, where manufacturers are actually leading the category management charge. So we are seeing diversity across the world, but we do see Australia as being early adopters of technology. So when there is something that's released to market, the Australian retailers are always quick to try to understand it, review it, and adopt it. And I would say from that perspective, in many instances, are quick to react to the changes that are occurring within the markets. Now, looking back over the last 5 years, I think COVID somewhat impacted that, but now we're seeing a significant ramp up, particularly over the last 2 years coming out of COVID. And with stability coming back into the economy, we're starting to see a little bit more re-energized focus and learnings from those other countries that I've just mentioned there, or parts of the world, and Australians adopting that technology a lot quicker than what I'm seeing adoption in other parts of the world.
Okay, interesting. So in terms of, I guess, competition in the market, as I said before, I think Blue Yonder's clearly the market leader in category management in Australia, as well as some of the other areas. What are some of the other verticals or some of the other channels that Blue Yonder play in that potentially our category management people may not be aware of?
Yeah, so we are a supply. We classify ourselves as a supply chain company. So supply chain means many different things to different organisations depending on your infrastructure and a setup. But effectively, we provide solutions in forecasting, replenishment, in areas around execution such as transportation, warehousing. And certainly over the last 5 years, embarked on significant investment around omni-channel as well. So capabilities around order management. You would have also heard a latest announcement where we've acquired an organisation called Doddle that focuses primarily around returns management. So that whole emphasis, as I mentioned earlier, around omni-channel, e-commerce, online, is certainly an emphasis that we're investing in as well. So and to support that whole supply chain operation, that's a whole new market segment for us. But that's where one of the key investment strategies that we're focusing on. So in summary, we like to position ourselves as an organisation, the only supply chain in the world today that provides technology solutions from consumer right through into sourcing and optimises that operational efficiency across that whole supply chain network.
Yeah, fair enough, makes sense. I guess just in closing, is there anything in particular that you are excited about on the horizon technology-wise? I know you're across all the details of the different bits and pieces, but is there anything that sticks out to you as a real game changer?
Yeah, this artificial intelligence and machine learning is certainly a interesting space to watch. We're seeing a significant amount of investment from other technology organisations. We are experimenting. There's a lot of adoption going into that area. I'd say at the moment, from a supply chain context, it is an experimental phase. However, we're investing significantly in that domain. You're seeing a lot of news out there with a lot of the platform players investing in the technology. We're seeing a lot of innovation around the service elements or the service organisations adopting that technology a lot more expediently than supply chain at the moment. However, there is going to be a role in play. So that's a space to watch in terms of being able to adopt artificial intelligence into the supply chain domain and coming up with specific use cases to resolve some of the challenges that we today as humans try to solve manually or on spreadsheet. So that's certainly the key area to focus on at the moment.
It'll be interesting, be a wild ride, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And the other area that Michael would just like to also explore is the IoT space as well, right? Devices, IoTs. That's providing us with a different dimension of information, being able to source information from a handheld, a mobile device. That technology is actually advancing quite significantly. And it's providing us now with options to connect in real time and start making other types of decisions rather than static decisions that's relying on information that's coming out of a database. So streaming data, real-time data is also helping us make those types of real-time decisions. And with the onset of all of this automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's also enhancing that type of capabilities to be able to respond and react a lot quicker to the decisions that are being made by consumers in the marketplace. So it's certainly tying those things together is definitely a thing to focus on, and I think a lot of organisations should question themselves around how to adopt that technology and how we're going to onboard that capability within the organisations. It's certainly going to be a competitive differentiator for many organisations if you can adopt it.
I agree. I think the exciting thing for Strikeforce from a technology point of view is that regardless of what happens, take a planogram for example, doesn't matter what system you use to build that planogram, once you've got the planogram, someone's got to do something with it in store. So I think from a Strikeforce point of view, we're lucky enough to see both sides. Not only are we aware of, through our partnership with you guys particularly, but we're aware of the changes that are coming down the pipeline and that are around the corner, but we're also able to understand how that will impact physically in a store in terms of labour and the best ways to implement changes that need to happen, whether that's relays and reviews in store and changing product assortments and things like that, or whether it's more holistically adjusting macro space in stores. We're across, I guess, the best way to implement those things. So we're in a really fortunate position to be able to see both sides and understand how we can utilise that for our clients' benefit. So it's an exciting time.
And we look forward to continuing our relationship and getting those types of inputs to further improve our capabilities. So,
sounds good to me.
Yep, the relationship stands strong.
Thanks, Daniel.